Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Town of Manlius board meeting. Once again, Zoomed. We're going to be changing this hopefully not too long, right, John? Before we get started, let's begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you, everyone. We'll start with introductions. I just wanted to mention that Councilor Caitlin Creasel will not be joining us this evening. As you know, she was in a little bit of a car mishap there a week or so ago, and just not feeling up to sitting through the meeting. So I told her I would let everybody know why she wasn't here today. So we'll start with myself at Theobald, Town of Manlius Supervisor.
Sarah Bollinger, Town Councilor.
John Deere, Town Councilor.
Elaine Denton, Town Councilor.
Karen Green, Deputy Supervisor.
Heather Waters, Town Councilor.
And also our other officials with us this evening is Randy Capriotti, our Code Enforcement Officer. Chief Mike Kroll, there you are, Chief. We have our Highway Superintendent, Rob Cushing, back from vacation. Good to see you, Rob. Attorney Tim Ferteski. Town Engineer, Doug Miller. Town Manager, Ann Oot. And of course, our Town Clerk, Allison Weber, running the show here for us this evening, once again. So before we begin, Allison let me know that we do have one individual that would like to discuss on open podium. I think we did hear from Mr. DeBruin regarding street light, and he would just like to make some public comments tonight regarding the whole process that we went through this week, these last 3 days, actually. So, Allison?
Yes, I will move Mr. DeBruin over now. I just wanted to say that anybody who's joined the meeting as an attendee, if you could, especially if you're going to be a presenter that's going to be pushed into the meeting at some point, if you could just make sure that your name is clear on there, just so we know who you are. And then if you are going to participate in the public hearings, we would also need your name then too. I see some people might just be a first name or just an initial, and that'll kind of help smooth things out as we move in and out. So I will move Mr. DeBruin into the meeting so he can speak, or allow him to speak.
It's a lovely picture.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Supervisor Theobald, Superintendent Cushing, and members of the board, I just wanted to give you my thanks for listening to my email from a few days ago. I just wanted to provide more so an update more than anything. And I did get your email from the other day that a National Grid representative had been out. So far, they have not sent a crew to the light as of yet. And I was talking with Allison prior to the meeting, so I don't know if they just don't have it on their schedule as of yet, or it's probably low on the priority list. But I just wanted to make you aware that, you know, they haven't come by yet. But more so than anything, just wanted to give my thanks for the prompt attention to the matter. And I don't know if it's worth discussing further. If there was there a public request for this street light, or if this was something that was put forth by the town board or along those lines. But that is really all I had to say, and I thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Grant. I appreciate your input. Allison, I think we did have a request. You know, we had a couple of streetlight requests a couple of months ago, I think it was, for that location and one other one. I think it was a neighbor of Mr. DeBron's right up the street from him on the corner. Is that correct? Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think we've heard anything. I mean, they they are pretty good at getting out there and getting the job done. They were.
I'll
Go
reach
ahead.
out to our representative tomorrow. I know, they probably have to get it put on their schedule, but I'll reach out to him tomorrow and just to get an update and provide you, Mr. DeBruin, with an update from National Grid.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's good of you to join us tonight.
Okay, I don't see any other, I didn't have any other open podium requests. I don't see anything else in the Q&A in terms of open podium requests.
Then we can move along here. I think we could move on to the approval of the minutes of March 10th.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes, please, for March 10th of 2021.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? I think we're good to go. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. Very good. And item number 4, approval of abstract number 6.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make an motion to approve abstract number 6 in the amount of $219,290 and 57 cents.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, and now we'll move on to item 5, which is a zone change presentation from T.H. Kinsella, CA Commercial District, RA, to the Natural Resource Removal District. And I know you all have, we have the binders here. I think we all have one. We've managed to go through those. And we will, Allison will ask Tom to come on board and I'll introduce them. Well, we're, okay, there's, all right, we have with us tonight, Tom Kinsella from Kinsella Quarries, Adam Schultz, Couch White, Edward Davidson from JMT of New York. So Tom, I think what we'll do, I know that you have a good presentation tonight, this evening. We are really going to hold a lot of our questions till the end. But also we're probably going to, over the next week or so, gather more questions from the board and get those to you as well over the next week or so. And before we, make any decisions on what we're going to do here. But with that being said, if you would like to begin with the presentation, welcome to tonight's board meeting. And you're muted, Tom, so you want to unmute.
How about that?
That's better. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Jeez. I guess I've done a couple of Zoom meetings, but not quite with presentations. So this is a little new to me for sure. But I think you introduced us. As you said, I'm Tom Kinsella with T.H. Kinsella Quarries, and we've got Ed Davidson with us with JMT, our engineer, and Adam Schultz as legal counsel. And we're here tonight requesting a zone change, as you said, and it's approximately 249 acres of land and consists of some mixed zoning right now, from restricted agricultural and commercial A, and we're looking to change it to natural resource removal. And just to give you a brief history, I know not everybody knows about us and what we do and the material we provide, but we're a family-owned company, been in business, my grandfather, since 1939. We operate 5 quarries around the area. Fayetteville's a limestone quarry that we operate, and we provide stone in the town and locally for many different uses. And by having stone locally, it's economically important. It keeps construction costs down, property values up. We provide stone for everything from contractors, which is all kinds of construction projects, from sidewalks, bridges, home improvements, and we provide to various municipalities from the town, all the towns, town Manlius, the villages for the roads and infrastructure projects. City of Syracuse, the water department for clean drinking water, the county, New York State, DOT. So it's a wide range of things that we support, and it's used for drainage, erosion control, as you see there, on stream banks or the banks of shores, and onto heavy highway projects. So it's really a variety of uses. And a lot of people use stone, they don't even realize different people, it could be for non-for-profits. We do the schools, Wellwood School being one of the big ones we've done recently there with their improvements there that included a lot of underground drainage to keep the water from leaving the site. Hospitals, things of that sort. And we're also, even though we're stone quarry and, obviously in commercial operation, but we are one of the few quarries that sell direct to the homeowner. So a homeowner can come and buy stone from us, saves them money, whether they're putting in a new driveway, doing a drainage project, or some landscaping stone. The homeowner, we provide for that. Everybody seemed like this year, being stuck at home with COVID, decided to put in pools and improve their house since they were stuck at home so much. And locally, some of the stuff that you guys may be aware of more, the projects that we participated in, provided materials for, would be like Save the Rain project down in the Limestone district there, that was to improve Limestone Creek's water quality. Green Lake State Park, I don't know if any of you have been up there walking around, but the last few years they've done some major improvements up there. We've been able to provide local material for that, right down to the Empire Trail that connecting New York State with, including the bridge over 481 that you see there. We provided material for that. And right, the Fayetteville Manlius High School, we provided material for the existing turf field, and along with a major donation. But even like 1981, when they did it, we provided the trucks and the equipment to move the topsoil to build that field. Soccer fields, baseball fields, we've been doing it for decades, which got us inducted into the local Hall of Fame for our contributions to all the various youth organizations and all the different athletics that we've done throughout the area. And we also can participate with people like Arise. We've made some major donations to them, Camp Iroquois, the cemeteries, all these different people utilize stone, and we work with them on that. We also do recycling, because a lot of our equipment, crushers, loaders, excavators, we can use, and we can recycle products with it, and therefore we recycle concrete and asphalt, and we resell it for stone base or things of that nature. And we've had a very good success record with reclamation when the quarry's done. A lot of people think, what do you do with an old mined out quarry? But there's many different things. We've got the lower picture, there's a reclamation project we did, one of our old gravel pits in Jamesville that we won the National Reclamation of the Year award with. For years, golf courses were one of the things that people talked about doing, but they've kind of lost their favor. Now they're, places like solar farms and things, which we're entertaining for our current quarry if when we reclaim it. But over the years, we've had decades of working with the community. We've got a good history there. We've had a quarry monitoring committee that we met with neighbors, and Barbara Rivette from the Environmental Council ran it, and we talked about issues and improvements and all kinds of stuff. And in 2016, I think it was 2016, they tabled the quarry monitoring committee because we were no longer needed. Things were running relatively smoothly. And now we simply, we do submit yearly reports to the town of Manlius that gives what we've sold in the quarry, any complaints, all the blasting records, make sure we're all in compliance with all the regulations provided or given to us. So now at this point, we are, after 50 years of mining in that location, we've kind of exhausted our high quality resources. And we have, we've been fortunate to acquire, I think it's 6 different parcels of land to the east side of the existing quarry that we're looking, that's where we're looking to have the zone change, and which is roughly 250 acres of land. And we're looking to continue our existing operation or similar operation in this new quarry, very similar. And natural crushed stone is an important natural resource, and preserving it locally is also important. It preserves jobs. We continue to contribute to the community, and it reduces the carbon footprint when you keep your source of material closer to where it's being used. And as we all know, all we hear about today is infrastructure. And this is an important thing to build infrastructure, whether it's schools, clean drinking water, sewer lines, water lines, bridges, roads. This material's used for it, and is important to keep it economically feasible solution for that. And our existing quarry, we can put it to productive use right now. The current reclamation calls for just putting it back to agricultural use. We've also been talking to a couple of solar farms or solar energy companies to possibly reclaiming into a 100-acre solar farm. Even if we get these approvals, it'll be a 5-year transition between, getting the new quarry in operation, building roads, building berms and things of that nature. And it'll slowly be a wind down to one operation while the other operation picks up. But at this point, I'm going to let Ed Davidson with JMT go over the actual the plans for the quarry and things, and then at the end I'll sum it up on why I think it's a good project and why I think it's a great location for this. So if Ed can take over from here. And
thanks, Tom. And thanks to the board for having us tonight. Just another quick hit on kind of the importance of these projects. Tom hit on the infrastructure refrain, and I don't think that can be overemphasized. When you look at the infrastructure around the country and in New York State, it's one of our largest expenditures, and yet we don't do a great job maintaining it. So really having these local sources of aggregate and other construction materials is absolutely required to maintain the community. It also requires advanced planning because they're not easy places to find it and locate. You need a combination of factors. You need the geology. I'm a geologist, and it's pretty easy to say not all rock is created equal. Not all geologic materials are created equal. You're looking for a high quality product that can meet DOT spec and won't fall apart after a few years. And you need a large enough property to economically extract that geologic material. And of course, you need it to be in a location where you have access to markets, you have access to highways. You can bring it to a project when it's needed. So it's important, but it's tough to really cite some of these projects, which is kind of why this project is in an ideal location. Everybody's probably familiar with the existing Kinsella Quarry in Fayetteville. This site is roughly 1 mile to the east. just over a mile. It's about 2 miles on Route 5. So location is consistent with the historic use of that quarry. The geology is almost identical, very high quality DOT spec limestone. As Tom mentioned, we have 250 acres of land to site the quarry, and the access to market couldn't be better. It fronts on the intersection of New York State Route 5 and New York State Route 290. So getting to the local community and out to Syracuse or to the interstate is a really quick, easy job from here. As far as the actual planned footprint of the quarry, as we mentioned, we have 250 acres to work with. The planned area over the entire life of the quarry is about 215 acres, and that includes a built access road, which you can see in green there. The total depth of the quarry is about 250 feet of excavation at the deepest. That's kind of from the top of the hill. And under that proposed footprint, you end up with about 90 million tons of stone, which might be tough to contextualize how much stone that is, but a 2-lane state highway can use up to about 10,000 tons of stone per mile, just in aggregate. So this could pave about 9,000 miles of 2-lane highway if the project gets approved. The access to state highways, where we currently have the access planned, there is a signalized intersection there between 290 and Route 5. This plan, which is currently in front of DOT right now, they're reviewing it, would require reconfiguration of that intersection. We would demolish a couple buildings and move a power pole and upgrade the signal, but otherwise it would just be a reconfiguration of an existing intersection, and it would be fully signalized, so it would enhance safety from that end. Development of the quarry itself is planned to be phased. Tom mentioned about a 5-year timeline to get fully up and running. A portion of that will require both quarries to be operating simultaneously, and there will be material leaving each site at the same time. But it won't be an overall increase in trucks. You're basically replacing material from one site instead of another. So total truck volume would be the same. The excavation itself would be phased. After the road is built, the first phase of excavation, the material extraction, properly named phase 1, is, if you look, it's a little tough to see, but that odd shaped outline in the middle of the site, that is phase 1. That's about 45 acres. And that's where the initial site extraction would take place, developing the extraction phase and developing a flat area to locate processing equipment and stockpiles and local traffic and truck traffic.
Ed, is that where the green
45 acres?
Is that where the green line ends? Is that where it goes? Is that where you're saying?
Yes.
That's the
Yes, the green line ends at the south end, right into phase 1.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And that 45 acres could represent several decades of extraction. So the first phase is centrally located. It's well screened from anything around it. There's a lot of topography and vegetation between phase 1 and any surrounding properties. And like I said, it could take several decades of working here before you move out of phase 1, because it is, again, 45 plus acres. Overall, the site would likely take several generations to get to the outer margins of the site. So we're talking a long timeline, and most of it being very well screened from any surrounding properties. So the question that comes next, which Tom already touched on a bit, is when mining is complete, what happens to the site? DEC regulations and New York state law require it to be put back to a stable and productive use. That use can take any number of forms. The current proposal includes vegetated open space with solar power development. But really, when we're looking at timelines this long, it's a little bit open-ended with the options, and they really will be guided by town planning, long-term town planning. At the end of the life of the mine, my understanding is the zoning reverts back to its prior designation. So town will retain full control over the development of this site once mining and reclamation is complete, which I think is an important point. So that brings us to the approvals that we anticipate are required for this project. Obviously, we're here tonight because we would require a zoning change from the town, and I believe the town has already forwarded the project to the county for consultation. I'm not sure if anything's come back on that yet. Additionally, New York State is currently reviewing the application. Department of Environmental Conservation would be required to issue a mining permit for the state for the site. That's the primary DEC action. But additionally, we would anticipate that a state air facility registration would be required for the processing equipment. The crushers, screens, and conveyors would likely or may require generators, or they may end up being runoff line power. But we do anticipate a registration for those. Stormwater coverage, the state multi-sector general permit coverage, which we do anticipate the site being able to be graded internally for all the mining areas, and that would capture any direct precipitation and runoff within the sites for infiltration and evaporation. But there is a relatively long and relatively steeply graded access road proposed, which will require some additional infrastructure and a permanent discharge point. So the stormwater permit coverage will handle any potential stormwater issues. And then, of course, the DOT commercial access permit for the access location and the intersection reconfiguration is the other piece of the puzzle that we need to put together. So that's just a brief summary of what the project looks like from our end and what we think is needed from a review and approval process. All of these approvals will go through a coordinated review between all of the agencies, and they'll all have, as well as the public, and everyone will have an opportunity to weigh in on the proposal. But that is what we're looking at. So I think that kind of wraps it up for me, Tom. If you want to wrap it all together and finish up.
Get on mute again, Tom. Just a reminder. There you go.
Am I good?
Yep, you're good now.
All right. Well, at any rate, to wrap it up here, we feel this is a great location. As Ed said, you can't always pick where you want to put your quarries. You got the natural geology has to be there. But this one happens to be in a great location with the existing state highways coming down to the red light. And it's a large amount of natural reserves that everyone consumes, whether they know it or not. The average person uses 10 tons per year per person of aggregates. People generally think, well, they don't buy stone, so they're not consuming it. But, just driving down the road, turning on your water, flushing your toilets, building your houses, the schools, everything we use, everything we do uses crushed stone. And it provides you clean drinking water, clean air, and it's a non-renewable resource. So you need to utilize your resources that are there. And by utilizing the resources that are closer to the end market, as I said earlier, it's less carbon footprint too, you know, that we're all becoming more aware of every day. There's less trucks on the road, less fuel being consumed, less wear and tear on the roads. It's just plain old more economical. It's good planning for sustainable development. You know, I think it's a good project there, and the existing quarry, you know, as I looked into it, we're really excited to possibly do, like I said, a decent sized solar farm. I know the town wants to be energy independent if they could. I think this would be great. It's got all the, you know, most people complain about the visual impact of solar farms. Well, we've got, you know, berms around the quarry. It's very vegetated. It can be seen by very few people. We have 3-phase power leading up in 2 different locations, along with being close to the transfer station or transformers or whatever they're called over there on Duguid Road. So the location for the reclamation of that's there. And like I said, I've talked to a couple of different companies on this, and they're interested in it. So we think this a combination. It's a good opportunity for us to move on and still provide the town with a good source of resources, and that everybody uses, whether they know it or not. And I think it's just good planning, and we're excited about the project. And again, thanks for having us tonight. And I'm not sure the format here, but so I guess that's basically it. And as Ed said, it's kind of an overall view of the project. There's going to be much more details coming, as you guys know, with that 3-inch binder you received already, how much goes into this.
Yeah, and Tom, you know, and I know Tim can also always give an overview of our job tonight. And we're looking at, is this location, you know, viable for a zone change for the project that you want to do here? It's up, really, if we were to review it to the planning board, again, it's up to them to make sure that it's done adequately. You know, that's their job. I mean, if I look at this, and like I said, we'll have a lot of questions, but we're primarily looking at this location if it makes sense. And I mean, everything to the west, I believe, is pretty much looks like woods and forest there. I don't know how many homes are right there to the west of that first phase. I know that over to the east, and it looks like a phase over, which would be decades, you said, is
Yeah.
Gulf Road. And again, where the green line goes, that's pretty far away from Route 5 down here, where there's no action that'll be down. I'm just curious, Tom, are you looking at down the north end of it, where Route 5 is, a phase there, or is it primarily where that?
Well, what's a little confusing probably, Ed, is the fact that, you know, the first phase, you're gonna mine a layer of stone off. In the second phase, you might be just underneath the first phase, taking another layer off, you know, because as Ed said, you know, in the southeast corner of the property, the corner of Gulf Road and Salt Springs is where its deepest cut would be, as you can see by the topographical lines that are on there. You know, that's basically 1,000 feet above sea level elevation. So you'll be going underneath existing phases without even expanding the footprint, with just going deeper in it.
I see. Okay.
And to expand on that, there are several hundred feet in the front of the property towards Route 5 that are not planned for mining at all. So I know it's tough to see at this scale on this presentation, but I think if you end up pulling out the maps later and looking at them, there's a blue or purple line that runs across the northern portion of the site, and that's where the cutoff is for any mining activity aside from the road.
Okay. All right. Like, as I mentioned, I know that I don't know if we're all done looking through the manual, but I know Sarah, I spoke with her a little while ago. She was putting some questions together. I would like to extend those questions if you are in agreement with that we can keep this open, all right, as far as for discussion and get information, any questions we have, to Allison or Tim. Tim, is there anything that you would like to say as far as an overview of the process here?
Well, there's a couple things that we should keep in mind. First, this is a zone change request to the I can't remember the name. What's it called? The Natural Resource Removal District.
Yeah.
So there's at least two processes, probably three. The first process is, does the town board want to change the zoning from the existing zoning, which is RA and CA, to that natural removal district? If the town board determined that it did want to do that, then there's another process that the applicant would have to go through to get a permit to actually do the mining on that type of zoning. But the most important responsibility that we're going to have here, the town board's going to have, is the State Environmental Quality Review Act determination as to the impact of this project. And we're, at this point, I think we would like to gather as many questions as the town board has, so the applicant can respond to it. And then we will kind of work through those questions. I don't think we're in a position tonight to make any decisions as it relates to the lead agency. I assume the town of Manlius will be the lead agency, especially for the zone change. It would have to be the lead agency. But I don't think we're in a position tonight to make that kind of determination until we really think through the application, think through where the board's questions primarily are. And then ultimately, if we need to have some kind of scoping session with the applicant and the involved agencies. Tom, I know DEC, they on the last time you did the quarrying, did DEC, were they the lead agency for environmental? Do you remember, or was it town?
I believe the town did it the last time, Tim.
Okay.
They, over the years, with the, depending on the experience of the board, they've done the lead agency. I don't know how this board feels.
Well, for all the renewals and all that, I know that the town was always the lead agency on that. But because this is a zone change, we would be the lead agency on that. I can't imagine DEC would want to be the lead agency because there's really nothing to permit until the zone gets changed. But in my view, we're gonna have to do pretty much the entire seeker for the zone change, because that will allow you to actually do the quarrying. So, I need to talk to your attorney about that and kind of
Sure.
develop a plan for seeker purposes. But I think the way we start off is to get questions from the board and see where the major concerns lie with the zone change.
So kind of to run off of that, Tim, I think I would like to propose that, we can gather questions from the board. I think we had talked about possibly referring this to the planning board for questions, not for their opinion, but for further questions. And I know we have a new social engagement tool that we're bringing online right now, or hopefully bringing online, that we wanted to use to solicit questions from neighborhood, people in the neighborhood, residents around the town, so that ideally what we'd be able to do is set up like an informational meeting where we could deliver all the questions over to you guys, make sure you get the answers, you can put them into a presentation format. We did this for a project last year and it worked out fairly well. Where we could, have some, that way it's, you get another bite of the apple to do the presentation and maybe dig into the timeline a little bit more, maybe help people understand the technologies that are used so that people understand what's going on in their backyard. And then that way, when we do move to a public hearing, That way, a lot of those questions have been answered. We've got it on tape so that everybody can take a look at those at their leisure. And that kind of strategy has been working really well. Just wonder if you all would be interested in setting up a meeting like that.
You're asking us, John?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And we are, we've got 50 years of data. We've heard a lot of the stuff. We're prepared for what they're going to say. And I understand people's concern because a lot of, obviously this is not something that most people are familiar with. However, a lot of times, it usually is very similar questions, and that's why, and we've got years and decades of data to hopefully to assuage those concerns that they have. And some people you will, and some you won't. But we've got a lot of data to work with, and I'm sure we'd be on board with doing that.
That's
So
great.
I just want to point out, we're getting a couple questions now, and this is not a public hearing. So I want to tell people we're not ignoring you on purpose, but we're going to use this other mechanism for gathering your questions, but please write them down now while you're thinking of them, because we want to make sure that they get answered. And you can certainly email them in, or when we get this new system set up, we'll be using that to collect resident questions, neighbors, people who drive on Route 5, whatever reasons you might have to be concerned. We want to collect that information, organize it, give the applicant a chance to develop like a Q&A document or something like that. And then everybody would have the way of that all these important questions are being answered in a thorough way and not sort of just randomly based on what somebody thinks of tonight. So that's what we're hoping to do with the questions. So I just want to let people know that.
Thank you, Sarah. In fact, that goes for the chicken questions that we're getting already too. So we'll be getting to this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all the material you have put together already. It was extremely helpful with all the maps and, able to compare the acreage you already have. And we appreciate it very much. I know the work went into it.
Well, I appreciate all the work you guys going through it, because that's a lot of stuff to go through. But with all the regulations and such, there's going to be a lot of information for sure.
Yeah, and just for everyone's information, we met, I think Sarah, you, Karen, and I think Randy and I met with Tom pre-COVID a year ago when we first looked at this. And then we got back together, and I think it was January or February again. So we revisited it. And so this was at least introduced to us to see if it was something that should come to the board, which we felt it should. With that, Allison, to Ed's, I think it was Ed's question. You did say that you sent this to the county, correct?
I will be sending it to the county. Okay. And can we just end the screen share? That way everyone can, there we go.
Yep. Okay. Very good. So with that, if everyone's all right with this, we can end this portion of the meeting, and we will gather our questions together. And as John mentioned, we'll be looking at possible informational meetings as we go forward. But again, we are focusing on the zone with us, but there'll be some overlapping, I'm sure, with the project itself as well. So Tom and Ed and Adam, thank you for making your presentations tonight. It was well done. I think a lot of us learned things we didn't know about, that the involvement of crushed stone in areas that you don't even think about. So thank you for that.
So thank you for your time tonight. And again, we'll be happy to answer any questions or whatever needs to be done. You let us know what we got to do next.
Okay, will do, Tom. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, do you want everybody to send, how do you want to coordinate the questions?
Well, we talked about that. Tim, do you want us to forward to you and copy Allison on that? Would that be the best way to do that? Or?
If you send them to me, I will collate them, compile them, and we'll have one. It can go through one person, and that way we can have all the questions together. So I'll be happy to take the questions that the town board has if they want to send them to me.
Excellent. Yep, That sounds good.
You want them by a certain time, Tim?
Well, I would say within the next, I mean, as people are going through the application, you know, over the next couple of weeks, so that we can, at the next meeting, give the applicant a
Okay.
sense of where we're gonna go from there.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right, with that, we will move on to, let's see here. Oh, yes, we're item 6. Okay, we just did 5, right? So now we're on presentation. This is, again, another zone change on 112 South Burdick, Empire Management of CNY. With us tonight from Empire Management Zone Change, we have the applicants, David and Louis Morocco and Alex Morocco, along with Naparel Engineering. Matt, it's been another couple meetings since we've seen you. So with that, we will hand it over to you to give your presentation on the requested zone change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Supervisor. With me tonight, as you said, Empire Management President, Mr. David Morocco, Louis Morocco, who will be looking to convert the proposed building into their management offices, as well the project attorney, Mark Elbon. So I will open and share the screen, and then we'll again similarly have a very brief presentation on hopefully move things along pretty well here. And let you entertain our thoughts here to change this particular property from a RA zone to a CA zone, which we think makes a lot of sense. So with that, I will provide my screen on a share. Hopefully you can see that now. So I've jumped right to the graphic that was presented in our application. The subject site itself is located off of South Burdick Street at the town line of the village of Fayetteville and the town of Manlius. We are sitting behind the Craftsman Inn and the development that's occurred almost, recently, as the different phases of the Craftsman have been developed and surrounded this particular property, as well as we sit directly behind the Empire Management Facility and across the street from the auto dealership. The request is for our subject site to be converted. Today it is sitting in a RA restricted agriculture zone, and convert that to a CA zone, of which the properties of which are fronting on Route 5. I'll slide up just a little bit. Genesee Street, Route 5 are all CA. I think Dave can talk a little better than I about the history of this facility and the building, and dealing with some of the previous arrangements and agreements that the town has had with the Audis, and how they function there with regards to utilizing that facility almost commercially today with regards to a small event center for Stickley. So I don't know, Dave, you want to interject there? Yeah, you're good.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight because I put this property was listed for, I think, a couple of years with Hunt Real Estate, and with the COVID and all the crazy things that have gone on, we're currently in DeWitt right now. It's too small an office, and I came up with this grand idea to look at this house and do a new concept of the way we operate, with space and outdoor areas and porches. If you're familiar with this home, it's absolutely beautiful, but it's in an odd location. The elevation, I don't know, Matt, what would you say? It's elevation of 30 feet above.
Yeah, it probably at least 20 feet above Genesee Street and the areas below. The backside parking of the Craftsman has a big retaining wall, which is kind of visual, but also impactful of this property, and kind of in further tells of its commercial nature rather than residential nature.
And it's a very well screened property. with the exception of the north side, which faces over the top of the Craftsman and their roofs and rooftop units and a good shot of Town Square Center. So it's kind of like our appetite to do this and do something different. My office is very small. Half of my office are my children. So it's my son and daughter, myself, and a comptroller, a secretary, and a leasing agent. And it will never be bigger than that. When going through the title work of this property, even the Ed Audi, who kind of is in charge right now, there was a problem. I think back 20 years ago, there was a document that was agreed to that he could operate this. It's up on the screen now. That they could operate this property as like almost a meeting center. People coming in from out of town. It's currently being used the same way. It was very specific. And even Ed didn't know about it. So it hurt the title work of this property, where it put me in a position where I've got to do what I'm doing right now and get that. I want that removed if I could. And I figured to just go for the zone change to the commercial CA that's surrounding the property, with the exception of there is a neighborhood to the far rear. It's, again, the topography drops. It's not a very usable property for any other use than what I'm going to use it for. And I'm not going to build on it. It's not a development. I'm not changing any of the foundation. All I'll do is restore it back to its grandeur. I think the house was built in 1904. It was owned by the Shipfield family. Maybe someone knows a little more than I do. But it's a beautiful home, but it needs a lot of work. And I just don't think that it will sell for a residential home, not with all the development that's happened and the noise of the Craftsman. And, you know, we like it because that's what we do for a living, shopping centers, and we're hidden up there. It's really a beautiful property. But that document is the key so that I can close on the property with the Audis. And I know you haven't had time to review that, but it was found when we were trying to get to closing, and no one knew about it.
So I think certainly, Tim, you'll want to take a look at this document, and it deals with, as I read through it, there was language, again, back in the early 2000s that the paragraph right here, the amended zoning pertaining to the foregoing parcel from RA to commercial A, subject to the condition that certain restricted covenants be filed with the clerk and run with the land as herein recited. Then further on, it talks about that it would, if these activities ceased, it would revert back to the RA zone. I'm assuming that occurred because it's considered an RA zone today. We're essentially saying, let's make it right. Here's that language right here. Should the parcel of land not be used for the above purposes for a period of 1 year, the subject parcel of land shall revert back to the restricted agricultural zone. So some point in time, either by default or other, it was reverted back to the RA. But this is something that has to be cleaned up, and that's why Mark is involved, and certainly Ed. You know, we'll have to get Tim involved to clean this up and make sure that the conversion of the RA to the CA meets all the covenants that were established back in the time frame of 2003.
Tim, anything you want to add, input on that?
Who's this agreement between? I don't see the top of it.
The town of Manlius and the owners, Alfred Audi.
Let me keep going. Keep going.
Henry Chapman signed it. So that was just a notary.
Do I have a copy? Yeah, that's his notary. That's not a.
No, and I'll get that right over to you. This just came out.
Go to the very top.
Yes, sir. Hold on.
Keep going. Yeah, the town is not a party to this. So I don't know. I don't know how it's considered our CA. The town's not a party to that document.
Well, if the grantor is Audi and the grantee is Audi and we get a sign off by the Audis.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm just saying the town's not a party to it. Mark, are you there?
Yeah, Tim, I emailed the document to you. There's provisions in here that, if you scroll down, Matt, it says that it can only be changed by the town.
Okay. All right. Well, Mark, you send this to me and then I'll take a look at it and I'll call you tomorrow, Mark. I don't want to go over it tonight. There's no reason.
Yeah, it's kind of like I said, it's something that we need to get cleaned up. And as Dave said, a little hiccup with regards to what we're trying to do functionally and hopefully legally it can be occurred. I think Dave, the Audis are who you're purchasing from, and they're agreeable to release.
Absolutely. In fact, Ed Audi still owns the home. He did a subdivision of this in 2018 of this property, and he's retaining the home behind this. There's another little white home. You see it?
Hold on, let's go Google. Hold on.
I can't even see it. But
this one here, way back here?
No, either back the other screen.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
Just because right now it says the owner is Cedar Circle LLC, so I don't understand who is that?
Yes, that's the Audis.
The Audis?
The holding company LLC.
Is that White House the one that you can see right from the road?
From, yes, Genesee Street. I mean.
Oh, yes.
You
Okay,
wouldn't
great.
even
Right
know it.
behind Starbucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know it's there, but now that you know I'm doing this, you'll look up there and you'll say, oh my God.
Yeah, and the other smaller building is the 3-car garage.
There's a 3-car garage. It's part of this property. And then to the below, Ed Audi lives in that home.
Oh,
Or people live in there that work for him. I think he's renting it out. I'm pretty sure. There's people from all over the world that do business with the Audis. I'm very familiar because they used to rent apartments from me on, for years. But then they went and they must have bought this, and that's where they bring these people in from Taiwan, China, all over the world. And that's
Some of the craftspeople and people that work at the company.
at the company. They're overseas.
But now we're gonna use the craftsman.
Dave, I have a question.
Yes.
What about parking? Wait. Is there enough room to
There's enough, there's
fulfill your needs with your
easily
company?
enough for 6 to 7, 8 cars. There's actually a circle that's actually an island. There's an island.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of a loop, and it's a long driveway, Karen. So there's, again, without getting into a detailed site plan, there's more than ample for 6 cars.
And a 3-car garage.
And plus a full 3-car garage on the property.
Yeah, this is John. Just a quick question: is there any reason that RM wouldn't fit this? Since it sounds like you're planning on not doing much and just treating this, like an office building.
Well, the issue is that becomes almost a spot zone. You got CA all the way around. There's no RM. You go into the RA and then you go into the village of Fayetteville behind us.
Well, I disagree with that
Mhm.
because the point of RM is to be the bridge between commercial and residential, which is exactly what this property is.
yeah, I mean, if you look all, and to Sarah's point, all up Route 5 is RM pretty much past the center. Were you looking at CA also because that's what the Audis did? And so you thought it should go back to CA because it reverted back to RA? Is that why you were looking at that, Dave?
I guess, let me run something by you, because I always have scenarios. So let's just say, I know for a fact, let's just say I run in this office for 10, 15 years, and then I'm not around. If the craftsmen ever came to me, like they were on, and I'm glad they were not successful, they were chasing the Wellington House to kind of be some type of extension to what they're doing for weddings. I picture this property, maybe it's just a vision, it's really not great topography to be doing it, so it probably won't happen, but if they ever came to me and wanted to do like wedding shoots up there and have, you couldn't park cars, but they'd have to shuttle people up there. It's just an idea I thought of, and I didn't want to have to like come back in for zoning, even though, that's why I figured to go with the commercial. But I have no intentions for this property but to use it for my offices and do it soon.
So Sarah, we just briefly talked here and something we can look into. We frankly were just looking at the surrounding zoning and trying to match that. But we'll let us review the allowable uses and make sure that the office use
Yeah, I have it right here. The uses are absolutely permitted. And there's conditions in here that if the building is older, which the Shipway House is, that it doesn't have to, then change to be different. It can just stay the way it is. And I'm really pleased with the idea that the Moroccos want to, fix it up because it has fallen somewhat into disrepair.
Mr. Supervisor, I do not believe it would be spot zoning if this went to RM at all. I think what Mr. Morocco was talking about using this property for fits precisely into the RM zoning district. So I was actually a little surprised that it came in as CA. I thought it was coming in as RM.
Yeah, and I think as far as the public goes, to know that we're not okaying, a fast food restaurant or something, to just know that it's no different than when you drive down Genesee Street, it's going to be the buildings you see, except slightly different uses, which I think it would be great for your purposes, but also so that the neighbors, don't have to worry about, what could happen on that property.
I think we can work with the RM.
Great, thank you.
I mean, I appreciate your foresight, Dave, on that, but I think at this point, I don't think there's been any discussion that they want to expand, Craftsman to that, but I think for the time being, it seems like it would, as Tim pointed out, it's not spot zoning, as Sarah and I did, that I think the RM would certainly be more welcome.
Thank you.
so next steps in the process.
Well, I think the next step would be if you want to change it to RM, that you can send something in that send a letter or an email even to me saying you want to modify the application from CA to RM. And then we can move it forward. The board, if that's what you want to do, then the board could recommend, or they can give this to the planning board for their review, as long as they know what zoning they're reviewing it under. So that.
Yeah, and I think the taste of the board that I've discussed with most of you is the RM seems to make more sense here, so we encourage you to, resubmit that or amend it.
Okay.
But in terms of the board, if the board wants to forward the application to the planning board tonight, or it could wait till we get a new application in, or a new submitted.
Well, I guess that would be my question is, do you guys want to, I don't know, take a minute and just tell us if you want us to refer it to the planning board as RM? We could take action to this evening, or otherwise it will wait another meeting.
I would support that. I would support that, so we could get it to the planning board.
Just like to just take a look at it, and we're gonna pull it up right now to see the allowable uses. Would the use of what I talked about scenario with wedding shots or through the craftsman someday? Would
Yes,
that be-
a photographer is permitted and more than two uses on the same property are permitted. So it could be a photographer and your business. It's permitted.
But I think Mr. Morocco's question is, can the craftsman in some way use the property
Mhm.
for weddings? And I would say the answer to that is no.
Right.
So why don't you review the RM code and come back to us to make sure it works with you or works for you.
Yeah, unless you're ready to go tonight, Dave.
I'd rather do this tonight because it's a little time sensitive with my closing. So Matt's looking this up right now and
Can I ask a question? Sorry to interrupt, but can I follow up on what Tim said about the photography? I'm curious how that works. So, but what if it's one thing to make if the craftsman's advertising something they do as if their business extends, isn't that different than having a service that's based where it is? I don't understand, I guess, the commercial.
I think the idea of one of the uses of this property could be as a scenery for wedding photography.
Right.
I would imagine that if it was like rented space hourly, I would think that would fit in RM to just use the property.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. So
Allows photographer.
how about this? Would you guys, I don't want to put you guys on the spot. Do you want to just go back into the other area? Can you, oh, you can't talk to each other there.
I'm just trying to get you the RM, but you just need to give me a
They can just mute themselves, Sarah.
Yeah, so can you guys mute yourselves and we could do one more agenda topic and then come back to you? I want to give you time to actually review it.
perfect, sure, perfect.
Can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Yeah, we can remove that, Matt.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, well, I don't know, Sarah, I really don't want to move into the next one yet. You know, I mean, they probably won't take that long, but
We are an hour late on a public hearing. I don't know even where that starts.
this is a continuation of the public hearing.
So let's go on and do number 7 and we'll go back to number 6. That will give them time to consult with their attorney.
Yeah, all right. Okay, we can do that. Yeah, they look like they're in deep conversation there. All right, let's do that. So we extended this from last meeting. So we're getting, we've got more comments. You know, I've got we've gotten a lot of replies regarding opinions. I've got a bunch of fors. I got a bunch of against. I've got some yes and no's, but, you know, I mean, it's like a lot of variances there, variables. So I think someone had a message on here.
Yeah, I think the questions we received through here are whether or not the idea is to include R2.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I'm over in Homewood, the only area that's zoned R2. I had a neighbor reach out to me this morning, and I did let them know that the current plan isn't to do that in R2. The idea here is this is kind of a step in this direction of being pro small animals in residential areas, and the idea, yeah, go for it, Heather.
I'm just gonna say, just for the folks who may not be following on the agenda, we jumped and we all know what's on the agenda, but we didn't say out loud what we're doing.
Well, yeah, we moved on to item 7, which was a continuation of the public hearing from the last meeting for amending the various section of the zoning code to allow certain animals to be kept in R1 district as domestic pets or comfort animals.
Thank you.
And like I was saying, the idea here is to introduce this. I know Elaine's done a ton of work on this, but the idea is to introduce this and not be too heavy-handed by saying you need a permit or by saying no, you can't do it. I mean, this is an opportunity where government can play just enough of a role. Yeah, go for it, Elaine.
Thank you. So in the original comments or the original issue is in R1, we have like a a provision that says you can't have a structure for chicken. So we are potentially updating that. And I am very interested in looking into how we can approve chicken for R2, but it will require a different solution. So R2 residents, Homewood residents, please contact me and I will be happy to see what we can do and see how we can include you in this this process. Well, not even this process, but this to allow you to have small animals in your yard. But then, yeah, the lot sizes would be a little bit different. But again, the Village of Fayetteville allows it. So we just have to work on the solution. And once we wrap this up, I'm happy to jump in and look into that.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to discuss briefly, Allison, I know you and I talked about it before the meeting, was we didn't want to read all of the points that were for and all the points that were against, because I think we've all seen that. And we've all read them over and over. I think we've had more against come forward, and which the concern, we know why all the fours, but most of the against were for the drawing of, coyotes and foxes, possibly. I heard someone, rats around chicken coops, things like that, that were more of a concern of, is it, can they be anywhere in the yards? Can they be in the front yard? Can they be all over the place? And so those were some of the concerns. The other thing that, which I noticed, and I brought it up at the last meeting, was we received comments from people who were for this, but they're in a homeowner association which have covenants that don't allow it. And so we need to make everyone aware, the residents who are for or against either way, that if this amendment is approved, that those HOAs, Mailer's Landing has them, Erie Village has them, I believe Glen Eagle does, Kimmery Moore, that they have, their covenants may not allow chickens. And Tim, jump in any time to help me, but I believe that the covenant supersedes anything that the town code approves. Am I accurate in that?
The covenants are a contract between the residents of a homeowner association. So I wouldn't say they supersede the town law. There's an agreement between the residents that they won't have certain things, that they'd be restricted in certain areas, let's say chickens. And if somebody had chickens, then one of the property owners in the homeowner association can bring an action in Supreme Court to enforce the covenant or the contract between the property owners and that homeowners association. But in terms of the town, if that zoning was allowed, if chickens are allowed in that zone, they're allowed in that zone. The only thing that would restrict it would be a covenant, but we wouldn't enforce the covenant. The town
Right.
wouldn't enforce
Okay. Yeah. Now I just needed you to clarify that for me because you said it much better than I did. So, Elaine, you wanted to add something?
I think you covered it, but I had that in my notes too, that just saying that the proposed changes tonight will make it so that the town of Manlius will not be an obstacle if you would like to take care of these animals, as long as you follow our animal code. But if you do live in a HOA or have a covenant, that still may prevent you from owning these animals.
Okay. So I guess the question is, well, first of all, are we ready to come out of the public hearing?
Well, let's see. Do we have people?
Same arguments we've seen already. Animals like foxes already exist. Well, this would just have more of them existing. If
Not necessarily.
Let's see if there's anybody who came to speak tonight.
We do have a hand up in the attendees.
Okay.
Okay. Brenda and Janice Larkin. We'll start with Brenda. Okay, Brenda, you can speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for listening to me again. And I don't know if this is just more of support, but I wanted to say, I think the concept of having chickens as pets is becoming more commonplace and accepted in more and more places. And there's just so many exotic, beautiful chickens that I didn't even know could be chickens. And it seems, just from what I'm noticing, it's more of the older generation that are leery of the idea of having chicken coops, and they think they're going to be an eyesore. They're thinking like lean-to shanties or Purdue chicken farms in the backyard, whenever you mention backyard flocks. But I've noticed it can be just the opposite. And I've seen some really beautiful structures built by the Amish that blend and match and enhance some homes. And I have a friend that has chickens, and when her daughter gets off the bus from school, she calls out to this chicken. She's, "Peeps, come here." And this chicken runs right out to greet her, and it flies right up into her arms, just like a dog. So I don't know. I think chickens, they bring joy and comfort to families as much as any family pet, whether it's like a cat or a dog. And I think it'd be a shame to not pass the amendment. We let our dogs roam on our property. They poop and they bark. And like, what's the difference if it was a chicken? You know, if my dog poops, I'll pick it up. If a chicken poops, it's not nearly as big as a dog, and it's fertilizer for my grass for free. And chickens they really aren't nearly as noisy or as loud as a barking dog. And I think with urban homesteading, it's gaining popularity, and we're learning that local, sustainable, and human food supply is essential to the health and welfare and being of our citizens. I think not allowing people to have a few chickens on their property is stunting and not keeping current with the times. And I don't know, I'd like to think I live in a progressive, forward-thinking town that will allow me those benefits. So I know we need to start with the city, and then maybe then we can take on the HOA or our covenants, but we got to start somewhere. So thank you so much for listening. And I really hope this goes through, and I'd be so excited if it did, but got to start somewhere. So thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, we might want to reduce it from 12 chickens then, because
I'd be happy with 6.
there's a lot of 12 pooping chickens, not just one.
It makes my grass green.
Brenda, I have a question for you. If you do have all these chickens, are you going to send an invitation to the supervisor to come and see the exotic breeds that you have brought?
Oh my gosh, that would be a dream come true. Yes. I know what I want already.
Thanks. I'm just trying to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next we have, they're logged in as JNS Larkin. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Stacy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So thanks for listening. And while I appreciate the comments of, I think, Brenda, the gal that talked before, I just want to play devil's advocate for a minute and share with you my experience. I've been in the town of Manlius since 1994. And in 2013, my neighbors did, in fact, get chickens. And despite their best efforts to keep them in the coop, the cage, and a plethora of different buildings that they put up to keep the chickens, these chickens frequently ran free, did a lot of damage to gardens and horticulture and other beautiful plants that I'd spent years making. And while perhaps the defecation is smaller, it's certainly plentiful. So listen, I could go on. I could speak about the noise disruption that started at 4 or 5 in the morning at dawn and went till 10 at night or so, was very disruptive to my home life. This went on for several years until, in fact, that's right, the fox and the coy dog actually got all of the chickens that they maintained. So the noise was very disruptive. My whole point is there are agricultural zones to facilitate folks who wish to have these types of animals. We had a huge increase in fox, coy dogs, bats, and insects and bugs. Again, I lived here 24 years, and I'm kind of going off the cuff here, gang, because I just heard about this. But the last 4 or 5 years that had those chickens, it was very disruptive to my home life. So I guess my question to you as the board or whoever does the zoning changes, why don't we have areas that are in fact allowed to have these types of pets, if you want to call them pets? And I understand wanting to be progressive, and then maintain residential areas to be just that, residential areas. You know, if you want to have chickens and you want to have, what's the other one on the list? Goats. And I think there was something else. Perhaps it's best to keep those in an area that's more conducive to that type of living. I just think it's a completely alternate viewpoint to the one that we just heard. I mean, there's a reason for residential and there's a reason for agriculture. I know my life was disrupted hugely for 6 or 7 years until the chickens again were unfortunately eaten by, well, they said fox. I don't know that we know, but it was quite, it was actually sad and it was inhumane, if you will. So just more food for thought for you folks. You know, is there a happy medium?
I didn't get your name.
Thank you.
Sure, no, it's Stacy Hillenbrand.
Stacy? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I mean, you move to Manlius and areas, if you want to be agricultural, there's plenty of areas for that. Plenty of places that are set up for that. And when you're in a neighborhood or when you're in an area, you don't want your kids awakened at 4 in the morning or 5. And I have audios, clips that range from 5 in the morning till 10 at night from the roosters and the chickens. And my neighbors are 150 feet away. I mean, I'm not in a small neighborhood where you're right next door to one another.
I don't think roosters are included in this, correct? If I'm not mistaken, I didn't see.
So they're not banned, no. There's no
provision for that. Okay.
There's no provision currently,
Right,
but we would absolutely, if there became an issue, that needs to be handled in our animal code, not so much our zoning code.
It's interesting that you say that though, because the neighbors, despite the fact that at that time, and I'm not, again, I'm off the cuff because someone told me this was happening tonight. Roosters weren't supposed to be next door either, and yet they were. And as I mentioned, it was for almost 6 years. I would call, I was told that, you know, I'd have to file a complaint. They would be informed that it was my complaint. I'm just telling you, it was extremely disruptive to life that you expect when you move into a residential area. We've got neighbors around the corner who have chickens right now on Dartmoor. I think most of you are familiar with Dartmoor. And they're loud and you can hear them. And that house is a good 500, 600 feet away from me, maybe even farther. And you can hear them all night. So more food for thought. Yep, thank you for letting me speak.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question, whoever
Yeah,
speaker.
go ahead.
I was just
Hi,
gonna ask.
Heather.
Hi, I wanted to thank you for providing the perspective too. And you had mentioned that, and it was interesting what you said, because I can imagine this is tough. It's sort of, you want to be able to call someone who can make your neighbors sort of accountable to the animal code, but you don't want to be in that position in the first place, right? No one does. But I did want to check in and ask a little bit more about your experience about sort of following up on the noise issue. And did you call the town, and was it a zoning, or did you end up just kind of calling like the police just for community reasons? How did you go about that, and what experience did you have?
Well, in addition to speaking to the neighbors, because as I mentioned, more often than not, these chickens were free ranging. In fact, one day I came home to find a water dish in my backyard for the chickens. And I have almost 2.5 acres. So, you know, I can't tell you the name of the person that I spoke with. So this began in 2011, or I'm sorry, 2012 or 13, when the neighbor redid the house next door and she got chickens. And it went through till the chickens were all, I hate to use the word decimated, but that's pretty much what happened. Increase again in coy dog, fox. Yes, there's coy dog, there's fox, but the increase in bugs, bats, coy dogs, fox, etc. So when I called the town of Manlius over on Brooklia Drive, I absolutely cannot tell you who I spoke to. I think since then they've changed. It's not the code enforcer, you know, no disrespect, but you get passed around a lot. You know, my efforts were first with the neighbor, and I got nowhere with the town, other than I would have to file a written complaint, and they would have to take it to the neighbor, which again, I'd already done. There was no one that would manage how often these chickens ran free. I guess I wouldn't have minded as much if they were contained, but there wasn't anyone allocated or time or personnel allocated then, imagine now, you know, to really manage this. And I lost gardens, flowers, you know, it was enamel loss.
And
I've survived it clearly, but if given the choice, I would move to a community that did not allow this before I moved to a community that did have it. If that has any impact on what you folks think, maybe this should be put to a referendum, a vote, as opposed to just.
Stacy, to be clear, this was a town, not any village that you were living in, correct?
I live in the town of Manlius. I don't live in the village. I'm about 100 yards outside the village line. And my neighbor is also in the town of Manlius.
Okay. I don't recall some issues. I remember getting a lot of cat issues, but I haven't heard anything about the chickens back then. So, but thank you very much.
Yeah,
It was
no,
awful.
I
And
appreciate you
again,
telling
I
us
have
the story.
audio.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you guys would like me to forward or provide you some of the audio and the videos that I took year in and year out, to show how disruptive it is. And I'm fairly mellow. Well, I suppose everyone says that, but to sit on your porch, to sit in your home, to have even the windows open and to have the noise, or come home and find chickens running free in your lawn, it's tough. So I just want to be sure that it's managed properly. Well, I'd prefer that it wasn't managed at all, but.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Concern, you know, enforcement is always a concern that, you know, based on our code enforcement and our personnel and the number, and you know, how highly staffed.
Well, exactly.
A lot to do with that too.
And if you have a plethora of chickens, how do you enforce it?
Right, that's what I'm asking you.
So that's one reason why we added the limit, so that way it is more enforceable. So if someone has too many chickens, our code enforcement officer can say, oh, you have too many because you only can have so many. So we did add that provision to the changes that are up for discussion
Yeah,
today.
Elaine, my neighbors didn't even have 12, and you know, it was pretty wild and pretty unmanaged. And anyway, like I said, I got nowhere. And when you're working full time and you're managing a family, trying to pursue that kind of management is a bit difficult. So I would urge you that if you do vote positively, and I hope that you do not, but if you do, you really need to have the proper enforcement in place to support the town folks who don't want it.
Okay. Thank you again, Stacy.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
No, appreciate all your efforts, folks. You guys put a lot of time in, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
You have no idea.
Well, I'm getting a good idea tonight on my first visit. I'll be back.
Okay.
All
Alice,
right.
anyone else with their hand up?
We do have comments in the
Yeah.
Q&A.
I love the anonymous ones. I mean, come on, people. Give us your names. What are you afraid of?
All right. So anonymous attendee said timeline, how long would it take to come up with a solution for R2? Animals like foxes already exist in our area without the chickens. If a homeowners association is accepting of chickens in R2, is that then allowed? We would love to be able to have chickens in R2 and love to raise chickens with our children, and they also eat ticks. We'll probably need to move to a neighborhood that has an HOA that doesn't allow chickens. That came at some point in the meeting, I think, in reference to what was said. And then Brenda said, wouldn't the permit process eliminate these problems? Parameters need to be set in place so that she doesn't have this problem, have problems. And I do not see anything else. I don't have any hands up. And I think I just made it through the comments.
So I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried? All right, very good. So we've had a lot. My question, what I'd like to do, if you're, yes,
I forgot one thing. I'm so sorry to interrupt. That was supposed to be part of the public hearing. Councilor Creasel had also contacted me, and as part of the public hearing, she wanted it entered into the record that she wanted to share her support of the passing of the law of the town of Manlius to allow chickens. And I apologize, that slipped my mind. I was
sorry.
juggling comments and whatnot.
So I got a phone call from someone today, totally against it. And after I found out where he lived in the village of Manlius. He goes, "Say what?" Yeah. So, okay. So what I thought we could do, I mean, I think we've heard from all of us, unless any of you want to add anything. Before
Just
we,
for purposes of,
yes,
for
Tim.
purposes of clarification, I think we need to, you held up several letters. So we should at least recognize who sent in the letters and put them as part of the record in terms of, Joe Smith is opposed, he lives at whatever.
I am prepared to do that.
Allison is ready to go.
Okay. I actually put them in chronological order based on when they were received, and we did get several of them. Pilar Figuero, and she lives on Prestwick Drive in Manlius. She supports passing the law and discussed the benefits and addressed concerns that have been raised. Bethany Bach, she lives on Iliad Drive. She supports and discussed the benefits of raising chickens. Richard Green, as you know, he had submitted one that kind of came in the flurry of the initial. So I resent that to you, and then he sent another, and he discussed concerns and experiences that he had as a code enforcement officer. It was a pretty in-depth letter. He also suggested a compromise would be to have an annual application fee. So I couldn't necessarily say that was for or against, but he discussed it. Jeff Kurtz on Verbeck Drive said he was opposed. Lisa Hall of Verbeck Drive also opposed. Shannon Daubsa of Hobnail Road, she supported. Denise Hanlon, Kitty Wake Run, wrote a letter of support. Jody Hearn, Whistling Swan, wrote a lengthy letter of support and discussed benefits. Allison, no, that's me. Alexis Pinsky of Muscovy Lane wrote a letter of support. Jennifer Connors of Muscovy Lane wrote a letter of support. Mallory Whipple in the Glen Eagle neighborhood wrote a letter of support. Gretchen Jolly, Latham Circle, wrote a letter of support. Alan Perrin of Duval Circle wrote a letter that he is opposed. Terry Morocco of Tall Oaks Drive opposed. Barb Wilson, Horseshoe Lane, she supports it with Village of Fayetteville type regulations, but no pigs. Cynthia Kelder, Edgeworth Drive, support. Eileen Monroe, she had previously submitted a letter and she lives on number 2 Road East, and she wrote a letter of support and clarified that she used to live in Manlius on Barksdale Lane and discussed the severe tick problem. Catherine Caldecott, resident of Manlius, she said that she supports it, but not including roosters. If roosters are included, then she objects. Monica Browning, Glen Eagle, supports. And that is all.
All right, so there's your 13 to 4 and 3 maybes, and up if they do these other things, so. All right, very good. Thank you for that, Allison. Appreciate that. And that included one of the phone calls I got today, who did live in the town of Manlius, that was opposed. So I guess unless anyone else wanted to add anything, I just wanted to sort of give my feelings on this whole thing, if I could. I mean, if anybody knows me, I'm for less government, you know. And but with that being said, this is a tricky one. But you know, as Stacy had mentioned, you know, RA is for agriculture. That's for a reason. Farming, livestock, animals. Residential, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not agriculture. It's agriculture. It's a separate, because residents, you know, they have told me if they wanted farm animals, they would have lived in RA zones. And the reason they build a house in residential is because they didn't want to be surrounded by farm animals. You know, these are the type of things that I'm you know, receiving from people. As I said, I've read, you know, all of these for and against, and I just think that allowing this to happen, I believe you're going to open up a Pandora's box, which also, and Tim sort of talked about this with the covenants, you know, you might be looking at, you know, lawsuit type issues going forward. I mean, I have a real hard time supporting this amendment, and I just wanted to let y'all know that. So.
Mr. Supervisor,
Okay.
can I say something? Yeah, I just, you know, we have never seen a groundswell of signatures on petitions requesting the necessity for people to have chickens in their backyards. I guess the way this is written, they could be in the front yards, they could be in the side yards. And we certainly don't have the enforcement mechanism in place to enforce any restrictions in these neighborhoods. And certainly, as I said before, you know, the adverse effects that come with having these comfort animals, and I'm not sure exactly what all the comfort animals even include, but so, you know, having said that, I've received many calls over the past few weeks that people are against this, as I am too.
Okay.
So I have something just to recap.
Sure, Elaine.
Yes, thank you. So I just want to again state what we're doing here. Currently, the town of Manlius does not ban any of these animals right now, right? The issue we found in our code is that you're not allowed to have a structure for chickens, rabbits, or miniature goats if you live in R1, R3, and R4. If you live in RA, you are already able to have these animals and a structure for them. To fix this issue, like we approached this issue because our residents have been asking if they can have chicken. And so what we're doing is just adding that these animals to the provision that already exists in R1, in the R1 code. We have received many comments in support of having backyard chicken. We have also received some opposed and some with concerns. We have updated the proposed changes to limit the number of animals you can have to help with these concerns. The limit is up to 12 chicken, which is the same as the village of Fayetteville. Although we won't, at this time, we wouldn't require a permit. The majority of the comments we received have been in support of allowing these animals. Many of our residents have outlined the benefits of having chicken, stating that they help eat ticks and other insects. They give you access to fresh eggs and foster responsibility and more benefits as well. We have received, it doesn't count everybody, but I have 5 comments opposed to allowing chickens chicken in their neighborhood, 2 of which are located in an R5 zone. So this proposed change would not apply to that zone, R5. Currently, if you want a structure in R5, you have to come to the town board or the planning board for approval. With R3 and R4, I know this concern was brought up last meeting, because if it's in R1, it does apply to those zones as well. We do not have a great deal of these parcels currently, and many of the ones that we do have HOAs, which I looked up their rules, and they're not allowed in their neighborhood if they have an HOA or a covenant. Even if you live in R1, you still have to check, right, to see if you have an HOA, if it's allowed, or if you have a covenant, again, if it's allowed. So this is just one barrier. I think I said this earlier, but the proposed changes tonight will make it so that the town of Manlius will not be an obstacle if you would like to take care of these animals, as long as you follow our animal code, which states that you need to keep the premise, structure, or enclosures clean and sanitary. Your animals must remain on your property, and you need to dispose of their waste properly. I will be following any issues that may arise. And if we find that there are issues, we will look into solutions to those problems. After 2020 and this year, as we are still in a pandemic, I hope this could bring some joy to some of our residents who could use some comfort animals. But again, the only way this works is that we do need residents to be responsible pet owners, talk to your neighbors, listen to their concerns if they have any, be considerate, and if your neighbors get chicken, give them a chance. That's what I have.
Very good, Elaine.
May I say something?
Sure, Sarah.
So I think it's important for the people watching or listening to this later to understand that the rule that we're ruling on now is in the ability to make a nice home for the animals, not whether the animals can live in the town. And so I think it's actually to our benefit to have standards of what kind of coop is allowed in R1, that is something that would enhance the benefit to the neighborhood versus not. So I just think it's important for people to understand what we're actually voting on.
It's all in how you look at it, that's for sure. All right. Unless anyone else has anything to add, we can maybe whatever you would like to do.
So I believe Tim said last time we have to do seeker, and I don't believe we did.
Good point.
I can't hear you, Tim.
No.
You're muted.
You're still muted. There you go.
Sorry. So does somebody want to make a motion to declare the town board lead agency for this local law?
I'll make that motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I guess I'm opposed to it. Might as well stay consistent here.
You're opposed to being lead agency?
Well, I oppose the amendment, so.
All right, I think it passes, whatever.
Yeah, it does. It does, yeah.
All right, so our responsibility is to go through part 2 of the short environmental assessment form. The answer is either no or small or moderate to large impact. I suspect that they will be no or small impacts by allowing chickens, rabbits, or pygmy deers pygmy goats in certain residential districts. Unless somebody objects, let me know. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? No to small, or will that be a large impact?
No to small.
Okay. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land? No to small?
Yeah, small, because it
Okay.
is changing use.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of an existing community? Notice
Yes.
small. Karen says yes. Anybody else?
I think it's small.
Small.
Anybody else think it's large?
Depends on the neighbors.
Will it affect the CEA? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or infrastructure for mass transit, bike
No.
park? No. Will the action increase the use of energy as it fails to incorporate reasonable energy? No. Will the proposed action impact the existing private water supplies or
No.
wastewater treatment? Okay. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, flora,
No.
fauna? No. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Okay. So
Oh,
based
Karen
on,
is different.
what's that?
Karen thinks there's an adverse effect on human health.
Okay. Anybody else think that would have a large impact? Moderate or large impact? Okay.
It could, I sort of agree with that. But
Okay. So based on the answers to those questions, the consensus, it seems to be that there would not be a significant environmental impact to allow chickens in certain residential areas of the town of Manlius. So
We
based
should
on,
find a negative declaration.
yes, well, yeah, so I would, based on those questions, I would recommend issuing a negative declaration.
Okay.
Does anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to
Issue a negative
Declare-
declaration.
issue a negative declaration. Yep.
Speaker.
I'll second.
all in favor? Opposed? Okay. Carried. Sorry.
Okay, so now I had drafted a resolution to adopt the amendments to the local law. And I think it's already been explained what the changes were from the last meeting, which would limit the number of chickens and rabbits to 12 and the number of pygmy goats to 2, based on the size of the coop or structure where they would be housed.
Very good.
So I'd like to make a motion to, do I make a motion to adopt local law 2021-1?
That's correct. Yep. And we need a second.
Second.
10 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Strongly opposed.
And it is carried. All right, very good. Well, we got
Just another note too, this is for the town of Manlius. If you live in the village, you need to check with your village laws.
and your covenants with your HOAs, as you pointed out, Elaine. So very good. Okay, I guess how's Matt doing with his team? Are they?
I think they're ready. We can ask them back.
Okay, very good. So let's Matt back on. Dave,
Thank you.
how are we doing, guys?
Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, so I would like to confirm that I will seek the RM zoning and would appreciate if we could get to the planning board.
Okay, thank you. So with that change, Tim, is it okay to move ahead on this?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we refer this zone change request to take this parcel to RM to the planning board for their recommendation.
And I'll second that. That's for 1112 South Burdick Street.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll take care of the planning board and we'll be back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Mark.
On the clock.
All right. Okay, let's see. So we jump down here now. We are down to, let me move down here. So, okay, we are on item 8. All right, very good. We need to We have a resolution, Tim, to adoption of draft plan, pursuant to Executive Order 203 related to the Police Reform Act and the Reinvention Collaboration. And yep, we all have the documents. I think we read all of them. And is there anything that anyone would like to, Elaine, yes, please. You must.
Okay.
must.
Yep. So I just have a quick little thing. So before we take a vote on the police reform and reinvention plan, I wanted to give a quick update. The Public Safety Advisory Committee had their last meeting last week.
Yep.
We were able to hear from the committee members, their thoughts on the county's plan. They thought it was a good resource we could pull from. In many of our meetings, mental health was talked about in the county in our meeting last week and about the county's plan as well. And I know the county is looking more into how to respond to mental health calls, and we hope to do that as well here. And with that, I have Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the Town of Manlius Police Reform and Reinvention Plan for Executive 203.
I'll second that.
Real quick, I did want to ask the chief if he wanted
Yep. Sorry.
make any comment or add anything before we vote on it, Mike?
No, I have no comment on it.
Okay, that was easy. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Very good. Well, we got it before April 1, 2 weeks ahead of time. That's great. Good job, everyone. That was a lot of good work put together, I would say, with Elaine's team and, of course, all the dedicated work that the chief did with the county as one of the lead sources to make this happen. And looking forward to just continuing how we operate as we always have. All right. So thank you very much, everybody. And we will move on now to the, the intermunicipal agreement on the sale of the vehicle to the village of Fayetteville. I know we've had some discussion on that. And could you give us a little history of, just to bring us all up to speed on where we are with all the vehicles from the police and how we've been organizing this over the last month or two?
Sure. As I said in my email, Captain Slater had contacted me. The Fayetteville Fire Department, the Village of Fayetteville had contacted him about the possibility of leasing for a few years, a vehicle maybe that had been pulled out of service. I know there was some conversation about some of the vehicles at Town Hall maybe not being up to spec. We are repairing a few of them. Our maintenance individual at Town Hall is on top of that. So I think there was maybe some miscommunication with maybe some of the departments at Town Hall while he was on vacation. I did speak to Captain Slater this morning and let him know that this issue would be tabled for right now. He agreed that that would be okay. We may have an occasion to be using this vehicle right now for some of the new recruits that will be attending our police academies as they do travel to and from. And if not for that, we can certainly look at replacing maybe the vehicle for the code officer, but we will retain that in-house for right now.
All right, so we'll table that at this point in time. Okay. All right, very good. Thank you, Ann. I know that Chris has been really working hard on getting those cars over to the mechanic on a regular basis. And of course, he was gone last week, so we skipped a little beat there, but we'll be back and up and running and operational once again. So with that, we'll move on to Rob. I guess we're to you, Rob. You're up.
Well, good evening, everyone. While we're on the vehicle subject, I just wanted to bring attention to the board. While I was away, obviously on vacation last week, we received an email. Back on the 24th of February, the board approved the purchase of 2 new pickups from the actual bid for the state bid contract. I had a chance to talk to Sarah and John earlier. What has happened at this point, it looks to me, is our build out date is definitely going to be a lot further along than what we expected. Obviously with COVID, the 4 dealerships are backed up. So they are extremely far behind on the build outs for these trucks. So at this point, and just in keeping in line with hopefully being able to replace these vehicles in this current year, I'm thinking it's going to be later towards fall before we receive them. Now, it all depends on, what we find. We're going to try and go out and do a mini bid, which we've done before in the past for these vehicles, which there may be just other dealerships that have them on their lots throughout the state. And as of right now, Van Bortle does not have a contract because it's up for negotiations. They feel by the time it gets, the dealerships get back to these builds and get on schedule, they're not sure whether they'll have a contract or not on state bid. So this covers that. So what I will do is put a mini bid together, bring the proposals back to the board for, obviously reapproval of the purchase of those two vehicles, if that's okay with the board.
Yeah, that seems to make sense. Rob, I know we spoke early, and under the circumstances, that seems to be the best direction to take now.
Yep, other than
Thanks,
that,
Rob.
that's all I have for this evening.
Okay. All right, Randy, anything for us tonight?
Just a few things. Good evening, everybody. The office building up on North Burdick Street is making great progress up there, the new build. They're making very good progress. I think they're ahead of where they should be, which is good. The permits are starting to pour in. They're increasing as we expected this time of year. Many pool requests already in March. So they're getting the stuff lined up for the fall. And next Tuesday and Wednesday, I will be available by either email or phone only. It's a 2-day conference for codes training that we're mandated to do. And I'll be in the office or at home virtually doing the training because they can't hold it in a conference room. So I'll be available by phone or email only. So that's it.
Very good. Anything, Doug, you want to add your end of it here?
Sure. The two projects we have out to bid, Sabre Lane and Innsbrook Drive. We received a couple inquiries to extend the bid by a week. So our electronic online bidding service has extended that by a week with an event. So we'll keep you abreast of that as we move forward.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for staying on top of that. Okay, Allison. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over Tim. You're up. I wrote over your name, Tim. Sorry about that.
I defer to Allison. I have nothing.
Thank you very much. Allison?
Yes, I just want to do a point of clarification that the resolution adopting the police reform and reinvention plan was to adopt the plans and the resolution as presented by the attorney. Okay. Okay. And
I
no,
missed
that's
that.
okay.
I wasn't paying attention.
Thank goodness you're here, Allison. Holy moly.
And then the second thing I wanted to say was I have had several requests to be able to access the recordings of the meetings. And I was able to, Counselor Deere gave me a tutorial on how to edit YouTube videos, which I feel like I really want to tell my children about. But I was able to link them to the Agenda Center. So only 2,000, I know, only 2021's up there right now. I talked to Lisa, we're gonna work on planning board. But if you go into the Agenda Center and you look at a meeting in 2021, you'll see a little TV there. If you click on the TV, you will be redirected to the Town of Manlius YouTube channel where you'll be able to see the meeting. There are other meetings there. It's just linking them up. And so I'm working present backwards and Counselor Deere is working from when we started forwards, and at some point we'll be caught up. So
thank you so much for that. That's a huge deal for transparency and for engagement.
Yeah, I saw that on the agenda and I thought it looked really cool, but
yeah.
I do want to say this was probably one of the first conversations where Allison and I really nerded out about the possibility of what we could do with recordings of a meeting. And so for it to be done is it's a good feeling. And I know YouTube was tough, Boxcast was tough, Zoom was tough, but we finally got here. Congratulations, Allison. It was a huge
Oh,
accomplishment.
thank you.
Well, that's good to hear. Nice. It's all a coordinated effort. There's no doubt about that. All right, very good. Chief, what do you have for us this evening?
Just a couple items. Our 2 new police employees are heading to the police academy, which starts on Monday. And we're still doing background investigations to fill that 3rd vacancy. And I intend to hire that 3rd individual and have them start the academy in Oswego. It'll be our first time using the Oswego Academy, so should be interesting. And all week long, I've been attending the virtual CALIA conference, and it's been some really great training opportunities and all that. But most importantly, tomorrow at about 1 o'clock, I'm hoping that after I do my presentation for the CALIA Council, that they will vote on our reaccreditation award for the next 4 years. So once I get a confirmation on that, I will share that with the board. And but as far as right now, every indication is that we did outstanding in our reports, and they hopefully will accept and vote to get us reaccredited for the next 4 years.
Will we get that highest level rating that we've had in the past? Do you think, Mike?
They changed the criteria a little bit for that high level, that they used to call it flagship. Now it's called something else.
Oh,
I think we fell short on a couple areas in the, in order to be able to get that reward, you have to open up your certain standards that are considered 20% to a different level. And one of them was that strategic planning effort that I started 2 years ago that probably would have gotten us there. But because of everything that's going on, we weren't able to put together a multi-year strategic plan. But that's my goal for the next cycle. I really want to get that higher level.
Well, more importantly, that 4-year reaccreditation is very key, very important to the town and the residents, and of course to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ann, do you have anything for us this evening? Anything more? No more car talk? We're good there. Very good. And I know Caitlin couldn't be here tonight, and John, I think she passed the baton to you.
I have been given an assignment. I'm going to do my best. This is not my area of expertise, but I think, if I remember correctly, we have the resolution that is on the agenda that would, where is it? Resolution recognizing Earth Month in the town of Manlius. So as I'm sure everyone's been seeing, Sustainable Manlius is doing a ton of work getting ready for April. We're going to have over 5 events. We're going to have community partners working with us to raise awareness on all the different things that we can do here locally. Elaine, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I can just say we're going to have the first webinar that we're having is Here Comes the Sun. That's April 1st. All these events are every Thursday in April at 7 p.m. I think they go from 7 p.m. to 8:30. There's Here Comes the Sun, which is all things about solar. There's Let's Talk Trash, which is about recycling and composting. Yes, I wasn't prepared. There is Electrify Your Ride, where we'll have EV owners. You'll be able to ask them questions and more. I think they'll do a little presentation. There is Green, Be Green, Save Green, which is about efficiency. Yes. And then the last one is, I can't get pumped with heat pumps, maybe. And that's with Heat Smart CNY. And you can learn about heat pumps. So again, every Thursday in April, 7 p.m. on Zoom. You can go to our website, find Sustainable Manlius, and you need to register. So know you're coming. So do that right now.
So this resolution does a few things, recognizes Thursday, April 2nd as Earth Day, recognizes the month of April as Earth Month. It'll commemorate Earth Month with Manlius Fest, a community-wide initiative to educate the community on climate justice, resiliency, and mitigation. Encourages the people of Manlius to mark Earth Day and Earth Month by working to address environmental challenges large and small, from climate change to litter, to educate their friends, neighbors, and elected representatives about the need for year-round action, and to otherwise honor the stewardship ethic for which the late Senator Gaylord Nelson, who created or established the first Earth Day, stood for, and also urges governments and peoples around the world to continue upon building upon the Paris Agreement and the other efforts to ensure the future generations inherit a livable, sustainable, and ecologically rich planet Earth. So I will
Can I
move to
just,
adopt that resolution.
before we do it, could I share my screen? Because I have the graphic that people can look for on Facebook too, to see the information about all the events. Would that be all right? Just share, am I allowed to share?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Allison. I'm gonna share this one. Here we go. So you can see here so it's Sustainable Manlius Earth Fest. Here comes the sun. Let's talk trash. You know all these by heart, Aline. Electrify your ride, go green, save green, and get pumped with heat pumps. I love the marketing. Thank you to Sustainable Manlius, and look at all these community partners that we have, including
And
Alliance.
that's an old version. We have more too.
Even more. So including the Alliance for a Green Economy, Assemblyman Al Sturpey, CNY New York Pure EV Drivers, Climate Change Awareness and Action, Drive Electric Earth Day, Fayetteville Library, Greater Manlius Chamber of Commerce. They've been so great. And it's nice to have Caitlin on board to help be a link there. Manlius Library, Senator John Mannion, Senator Rachel May, the town, thank you everybody, Village of Manlius, and the Village of Manoa. So that's pretty exciting.
And the Village of Fayetteville too, they're on there as well.
And the Village of Fayetteville. Thank you
They're
so
not
much.
on there, but they are.
Yeah.
So was that a second, Heather?
That's a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Carried. All right, very good.
I do have three more. My understanding is that Tim was aware of these prior to me being given this assignment.
Yes.
These are a number of resolutions that are going to help. Basically, so Sustainable Manlius has been relentlessly pursuing being a climate smart community. And there's a number of different guidelines and specifications and campaigns and all these things we have to opt into. But basically, we need an official partnership with a couple organizations that are going to work with us to meet those guidelines. And the goal here is to meet certain requirements and hopefully get grants from that as part of the program. So the first one, and I apologize if this takes a minute, is a resolution to enter into agreement with the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board to do a community greenhouse gas emissions inventory.
Is that the resolution?
So you need somebody to move that, or you're moving that?
I'm moving that.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And you have another one?
I got two more.
Oh, two more. Okay, go for it.
So a resolution to enter into a partnership with Heat Smart CNY and their partner companies on the NYSERDA Community Campaign for Clean Heating and Cooling and Energy Efficiency. And this is basically folks are Heat Smart CNY are trying to move folks to, I believe, a alternate way to heat your home. And if that campaign with our partnership is effective, we will hopefully get rewarded for that.
Very good. That's a motion.
That's the motion.
Have a second? There we go. Heather? Okay.
Yep, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. Okay. And I've lost count. What did you say? Two more?
This is number 4.
Okay.
To a resolution to make a motion to make a motion to enter a partnership with Omni Renewables on the community campaign for community solar, and that's going to be similar to the last one. as if we enter into this partnership and they are able to meet certain goals, we will hopefully be able to take that as credit towards all the different programs Sustainable Manlius is working on.
John, just for clarification, there's no cost associated with this. This is just a partnership that we.
Yep, we're just a partnership.
We're hoping to be rewarded, I think you said, right?
Yes, indeed. That's the plan.
All right, so I'll need a
And
second.
just for clarification, Omni Renewables does community solar projects.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay, is that a second, Sarah?
Yes, sure.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed and carried. All right,
And that's
it, okay.
as I know, all the resolutions for.
Yeah, but you're not escaping yet, John, because we move on to communications, which is the next item. And
Indeed.
that is also yours.
So what we have here is a quote from Civil Space. Basically, this is the program. We've budgeted for it. This is going to be a tool for us to use for all of the public engagement that we do. It'll allow us to put together projects so that folks can follow timelines. Generally speaking, it's a much more user-friendly, mobile-friendly platform that is meant to kind of guide the conversation and get effective answers to the questions we're looking for. I think the quarry is a possible project we'll be looking at doing it with. I know we'll definitely be using this for the comprehensive landing project. And then pretty much that we are going to get the level of service that would allow us to run as many projects as we want. And so as we get trained up on how to use this, and really learn all the benefits and ideally quickly generate this content so that we can have that back and forth, and also hopefully find residents being familiar with it and coming back to it, and as opposed to going to the website filing a comment. This is a much more interactive tool, and so yeah, I don't know. I think I am presenting the quote so that we can say yes and move forward with the contract. One thing I will point out, we had budgeted for the yearly cost. We did not budget for the initial setup fee. We were very happy to see that Civic Plus was able to cut that fee to fit within our budget so that we can get started on this right away.
So I think you're making a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign.
So moved.
And they reduced that, and that cost, John, was at the originally 9578.90, and they reduced.
Yeah,
that.
so on that invoice, that first line, the implementation one, that 1,000 was closer to 3,500.
Oh, okay, very good. All right. And Sarah, did you second it?
I did second it.
Okay, very good.
What's the total cost?
For this year, $7,078.90.
Thank you.
That's very good. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carried. Very good. I think we're all set here. And I have nothing this evening. I think we've all said a lot. So I would like
You have your report.
I don't have. Oh,
Yes, you do.
Okay. You know what?
So I would make a motion to accept the supervisor's report, which I actually read.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, John.
All in favor?
I didn't get a copy of the supervisor's report.
It's very good, Karen.
It's in the agenda.
Yeah, it was. For some reason, I had the first agenda. I didn't print out the one that had it on there. So
Ed can share his screen if we need to look at it, right?
No, we're good. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. Sorry, Heather.
I was gonna say Karen can abstain if she had to, right? I understand wanting to be formal.
Yeah.
I know you care. I know you read those.
I
Karen.
always read it, Heather. That's why. I was looking for it.
Okay, so now I am done. So if anybody has anything else, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
And John, second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. Thank you, everyone. And busy meeting tonight, but we got it done. Thank you and stay healthy, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.